What's up, friends? Welcome back to Rooted Wisconsin, where we are dedicated to authentically sharing the stories of the people who drive Wisconsin culture. Thanks for joining us for another show. We'll start it off by the same way we do everyone, thanking you. Thank you for your likes, shares, subscribes, follows. Thank you for engaging with our content on social media. And just thanks for being there. We make the content for you, and glad you keep enjoying it and coming back. So we appreciate you. Rooted Wisconsin brought to you by Riverside Pizzeria of Green Bay. Best pizza in Wisconsin. We've been talking about cheese out and pepperoncinis. I thought today we would touch on the pull-apart cheese bread that you can get for an appetizer. Definitely worth the visit and definitely worth adding it onto the front. So Riverside Pizzeria, thank you to Ryan and the great folks over there, as well as Wonder Sign for our decals, hats, and a bunch of Rooted Wisconsin garb that you can get your hands on when you see me out in the community. So thank you to Wonder Sign and our friends at Discover Green Bay for the studio space. As we're early in year 2, we're ready to get another episode started. And welcome to our guest today, Bill Jartz. Thanks for coming in, Bill.
Well, Brad, appreciate it, but I'm looking for the pizza. If I start drooling, you'll know why. That sounds great. I want to tell you, holy smokes.
It's good. Have you had Riverside yet?
No, but based on your introduction there, I better start looking for it.
Oh, it is fantastic, man. I used to live up in the UP, and that's where the original one is.
Oh, okay, sure.
And they've been there for years and years. I don't even know when the first one was. And Riverside just opened here in Ashwaubenon a couple years ago. But I was so excited because I beat it to Green Bay, and then it was right down the road from me.
They're following you, guy. They know a trendsetter. For goodness sakes, follow the leader. They say, follow the leader.
I guess.
Anyway, pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Pleasure to have you. I'm excited to chat, man. You've been on the air in Northeast Wisconsin for a long time.
Yeah, my first pet was a dinosaur, if that puts it into perspective. But no, I started my broadcasting career in 1980 at WSAU at that time in Wausau. And I came to Green Bay in March of 83. And I've been there since. I had a little sabbatical there, as they say. In 90, I left to become a stockbroker. I found out why they call them stockbrokers. I went broke selling stock. And then I became an industrial paper salesman for a company down in Appleton. And then luck would have it, some people said, well, you want to get back into business. And here we are. I got back in the business, and it's been since, January 1st of 93. I've been in the broadcasting business. First, primarily I started out in sports, and then in 1998 went to news, and been there since. So been quite a run.
Yeah. I didn't know that part of it. You were just starting to get there right before we hopped on air. I didn't know you left for a while.
Yeah. It was one of those deals where it was somewhat contract driven. And they basically said I kind of maxed out my earnings limit at that point. I was like 35 years old or whatever it was. And geez, I got to make more than this. I mean, to put a cap on you was like, why do I want to work anymore? I know inflation's coming, and so I've got to do something to change it. And I've always been kind of interested in the investment business, in not the business, but in the concepts of it. Mm-hmm. And so I went to school. I got my Series 6 and Series 7, all that stuff, and was licensed. And it just, I found out real quickly I'm not a salesman. People, you sell yourself every day. A totally different animal.
Oh, yeah.
And I do a lot of charity auctions. I can sell you that coffee cup over there, and I'll get you to pay $5,000 for it. Why? But you do. But if I walked in and say, hey, Brad, would you like to buy this coffee? I'd just like start sweating profusely, get scared. I'm just not a salesman.
Yeah.
And then paper sales, I got into that. Just one of those things, a job popped up, and here we go. And I had the greatest customer service guy, Dennis Allberg's his name. And he was so helpful, and he knew you were selling stretch film and tape for industrial machines and wrappers. So it wasn't just selling like paper and toilet paper and printing paper. I mean, there's a lot of machinery and stuff. And I just learned that that's not my niche. Everybody's put on the earth for some reason. Mine's not to be a salesman.
Sure.
So I guess I just kind of struck that off the list and got back. And I got very fortunate that 2 stations were actually contacting me, and worked out well that I got back to BAY, and it's been a pretty good run.
Yeah. I know a lot of people in the industry that have the similar story about either why they left or left for a while. That's why I got out of broadcasting. I had the last company that bought the station I was working for, the words came out of their mouth, we don't really do raises.
Yeah.
I said, you don't do raises? I don't know how much I do work in here then.
Right. It's really, because you really cap it.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. I mean, it's really not fair. They're increasing their rates on their ads.
Right.
And when they go to buy equipment equipment goes up from
Yep.
when they bought it last time. So why would we be any different than anybody else? I mean, it's just a natural thing. It's called inflation, and we're dealing with it. The last few years have been brutal, but things just seem to be calming down a little bit now. But, I mean, that's one of those things, right? You know, the problem is so many of us get into this business. Hey, it's pretty cool to be on TV or be on the radio. And you hear yourself on the radio, see yourself on TV. I hate looking at myself on television. You know, the consultants, I say, oh, you got to go back and look at your shows and let's just make sure what you do. I hate it. I hate my voice. I hate how I look.
Still to this day.
To this day. I mean, I just don't do it anymore. I guess when you're younger, you're supposed to, because that's how you're going to get better and you're going to, you know, see what you're doing right and doing wrong. You can feel it. I guess I don't know. I just never have done it. I just don't like looking at myself. And I'm at the stage of my career now as if I walked back to BAY today and they said, you know, Bill, you're done. I said, okay, well, thank you much. And I'll go home and go back to Maribel, hop on my old John Deere tractors and go split some wood or something. I mean, that's kind of where my career is. Not when you're younger, sure. It's a different, probably I was wrong in not doing that.
Yep.
But I've always been of the mindset that you are who you are. When I switched into news in 98, they said, the consultants came in. Oh, now we're going to remake this Bill Jartz. Now, I've been on the air since March of 83, and this is now 1998. And now we're going to remake this guy. We're going to create this new monster, this new creature. You know, I used to joke about eating and eat pies and eating a lot of food. Well, you can't do that anymore, and you have to look like an anchor and be real serious and somber. And so they told me to do it, so I do it. Right, I'm a good. So, and after a while, I said, well, people don't seem to be, they must have done some focus groups. So you don't seem like you're yourself. I said, well, you didn't, I'm not myself. So I guess at that point, I just said, you know what? I'm going to sink or swim with this guy. I am who I am. I think that the guy you see out on the street or, down at the Maribel Grain Feed Mill or a Fleet Farm or whatever is the same guy hopefully you see on TV. I obviously clean up a little bit, and more like in the morning I wear bib overalls and, and work shoes and I look like a bum, don't shave. No, and I come in and become a broadcaster. I look the part anyway.
Yep.
But I am who I am. I'm just not going to try to fool anybody. I mean, I speak differently, clean up my language a little bit. But, I am who I am, and I think that's been probably the biggest part of my success.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I see people, I think, say, well, what you see is what you get. And I'm very happy with that. I mean, I'm comfortable in my own skin. And if that's not good enough, that's probably why I never moved on to other markets where I didn't have people, hey, would you like to come work in Milwaukee? Or, hey, would you like to work in Minneapolis? Because I probably would have to change a little bit. And I just that's just not me.
Yeah. I think there's so much to that. There's so much to that. And I mean, you've had a hell of a run, and that's part of why. Like, I think that comes through the screen. It comes through the airwaves, however someone's watching or listening. Like, that's why in our whole mission statement and at the front of every episode, I say the word authentic, because I truly mean it. Like, it's really easy to tell when things go the opposite way of that, when someone has the veil up, And no matter if somebody who runs the place tells you to change that or something, it's not going to change how that message is received.
Look, it'll be fake.
Yeah.
And one thing about television, you can fake it maybe a little bit easier in radio because you can't see your face.
Yeah.
But when you're in television, you got that camera and they can hear you and they can see you.
Yeah.
And don't try to BS them. People, we don't give them enough credit.
Yeah.
They're pretty smart and they're pretty observant. They kind of get a read on you. And I saw a guy last night at the Hall of Fame deal, and he was saying, I remember you when you started in Wausau. You're still pretty much the same guy. Said, I was terrible, really, really, really bad back then. I've gotten a little bit better now. I'm just bad, not really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
And it's Chuck Ramsey was my predecessor. I owe him my news spot to be the news anchor. Because when Tom Zelaski left, our station went to Channel 5. He walked into the boss's office and said, there's your anchor right over there, pointing at me. And I'm forever indebted to him.
Without you knowing it, he said that?
Well, no. He had told me over the years, what you should do is go to a place like Wausau or Eau Claire, small market, La Crosse, become a news anchor, get some seasoning in that, become a news anchor, and then when I retire, then you come back and take my spot.
Okay.
That was kind of the plan of attack. Well, when Tom went across the street, boom, it just happened. I mean, bang. I guess some contract negotiation blew up, and he walked out the door, and Chuck went over and said, there's your guy. And Chuck had enough sway at this stage. I mean, he's a broadcasting Hall of Famer, been there 40 years himself. And He had some sway at the station, and the general manager said, well, so we cut it one night. We did the news, and I did the sport, and take care, okay. Cammy said, good night, everybody. And then we just switched seats. I went over and sat on the left side. She was there, and we did a newscast, and they ran an audition tape, and they sent it out. It was going to work. And even if the consultant said it won't work, I'm sure Chuck would have said it's going to work.
Sure.
Because for the same reason that we were just talking about. Chuck was just himself. He liked to hunt. He liked to fish. Kind of scruffy. He lived in a log cabin. Because of that, I live in a log cabin. We heat it with wood. So I split the wood. That's part one of my mornings. What do you do? Go play tennis or golf? No, I get up in the morning. I work out. I walk my dogs, and then like on a normal day, I'll go out and saw wood, split wood, stack, haul wood in the basement. I plant gardens, dig potatoes, whole potatoes, whatever the season is, and that's what that's me, and he's very much like that, and that's why I think, and when he got in the Hall of Fame, our general manager at the time, Don Carmichael, said, one thing about Chuck is people like him because they can relate to him. He's one of them. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of them. I'm from Clintonville. Mm-hmm. I grew up on a small farm, went to Clintonville High School, got the break in my life to get a football scholarship at Northwestern to pay for my education. And then there's no way in the world I'd ever be able to do that. And I like to hunt. I deer hunt. I turkey hunt. I like to fish. And that's what people here do, mm-hmm. And they kind of like to see themselves, and they can see themselves in me. And I got to understand why they get excited about it. And why they enjoy going fishing, why deer hunting. For me, the opening day of deer season is like Christmas Eve as a kid. Mm-hmm. I mean, it truly is. Mm-hmm. And the rest of it, Christmas Eve, okay, my wife's a big Christmas, so it's a real battle for us. I mean, she deer hunts too, so I give her credit for that. And that's a little concession to me, I guess. Yeah. But for me, opening day of deer, I get up, I usually do the 10 o'clock news, so I get, I've been able to get off last couple of years, but normally I do the 10 o'clock news, get home at 11:15. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm up making breakfast for the guys who show up at 5. We eat breakfast and they go to their stands. And I'm a little kid. Oh, what's in the box? What did they get for Christmas? But it was the same thing every year. I mean, that's I think why I've been successful. I really do. And Chuck was a great example. He was an easy guy to follow, and was just a real confident guy. And he was who he was. And he had opportunities big time. I mean, he could have. Detroit wanted him one time, and he could have gone Minneapolis, I'm sure, but I know Detroit wanted him because he was just a great storyteller. Mm. He was just, and when I was a kid, Walter Cronkite was the guy that dominated the news. If Walter said it was true, and Chuck was that guy here. If Chuck said it, he could say it's broad daylight right now, be at midnight, and he's okay, must be. I got to change my watch because Chuck said it. And people, because he could relate to him, he was put on no airs. Yeah, he was just a guy who happened to read the news and read it very well, and people believed him. He had a great delivery style and was very laid back and believable. And I tried to walk in his footsteps, and clearly not, but that was my goal. And my biggest thing when I switched to news, I didn't want to blow it, because I grew up watching this station as a kid. I mean, it was a big deal. Channel 2 was it. We were farm kids, so we would always watch the noon show, and you shut up during the market. Don't say a word during the markets. Because back then you didn't have internet or computer or smartphones.
You miss it, you wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, to find out what the pigs are bringing or what the cows are bringing. Are we going to ship the cows? Are we going to sell the corn? You may shut up during the noon show. Don't say a word during that market time. It was a huge deal. It used to be an hour-long show and the whole 9 yards. And it was just, for me, I didn't. Les Sturmer, Bobby Nelson, Joe Schmidt, my predecessors. I didn't want to blow that. They gave me such a tremendous platform to start from. When we were up here, and when they're going down there, we were way up here. I didn't want to blow it. I didn't want to drop it down. I wanted to just maintain it. I don't want to. If I can increase it, great, but I don't want to drop it. That was my goal, and I think, by and large, I've been successful doing that. I don't know. I guess you just have to ask the boss or whatever, but I guess I've been around for a while, so I guess that speaks. I'm in this business that typically likes to change things. But that's one thing our station's been pretty good about, is longevity.
Yeah.
I think it's like anything else. People don't like change. We're all creatures of habit. Mm-hmm. Athletes in particular, in sports I started, and you see it all the time. There's a reason why they get up at 6 and eat breakfast at 6:30, and then you go get taped, and then you train. And people want to do that. Dogs want to do that. People want to do that. We're the same thing. Mm-hmm. You get comfortable. You want to watch a station, you get comfortable. And I think we're comfortable. We got a nice routine, and I think that's part of the reason for my success.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're so right. When I left my role, I never would have imagined the people that reached out and said that, every day they listened and it impacted their lives in this way and all that stuff. You don't think about it when you're
Well,
doing it.
I remember after COVID, Cammie and I, we were there, and this one lady in particular said, "You got me through COVID because everything else was crazy. Nothing was the same except you guys did the news," and that was a heck of a compliment.
That's heavy words, man.
It really was.
Yeah,
because that was a crazy, crazy time for all of us, and so many different things. For the news, I mean, it started out initially, what do we do with just social distancing? So at one point she was on a set over there and I was here, and weather did it from home and sports was way over there. And then that's just not working.
Weather did it from home for a while?
Yeah, many times, yeah. A lot of us did it from home. And then they brought them back in, they got them separated, and then they put us, Cammie's on a fairly long, wide set, so she would be there and over there, and hey, Cammie, what? No. But now basically my elbow and our elbows can touch. We're that close.
Yep.
Back then we just spread them out and get the social distancing, try to cut back on everything, and so yeah, that was a crazy time. But when that lady said that, it was very, very powerful, and you don't think of those things.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't. And they'll say, kid will come up and say, "Hey, you did a story on my dad." Okay, so I'm old. I get it.
Yeah.
But no, it's people. Generally, people will say bad things about you. You'll get emails now if you're going to get chastised or ripped, whatever you want to call it. They'll do it digitally.
Yeah.
But they're very rarely will when they come up to you to say, because there's kind of a fear factor.
Yeah.
You're like, oh God, can I walk up? I'll tell you a story. My senior year in high school, Clintonville High School, our basketball team was going to state. And Bob Schultz from Channel 11, still around, still on the Packer Hall of Fame board, saw him just about a year ago. He came to the school to do a little story on a pep rally and things, and it was a send-off for the team going to Madison. And we had these gold trucker buttons, little things to pin on. And somebody's got to put one on him. And it was like, oh, I'm afraid. And I go, well, why don't you do it, Bill? Why don't you? I'm afraid to. Okay. Here, Bob, we want you to have one of these. We're kind of cool. We're going to state, But there's that apprehension about people approaching you.
Mm-hmm.
And you see them. I try to diffuse the situation if I can, because I'll see somebody walking out and you can tell that, like, okay, I know who that guy is. I want to say, I want to look at whatever. You always wonder, are they looking at you because like your hair is down, or you got a booger hanging out of your nose, or your tie is all messed up, or whatever. So you kind of break this. Hey, how you doing? Oh, good. Hi, Bill. How are you? It's no big deal. Yeah. I mean, I'm a hay shaker. I don't know a whole lot about technology. My wife says I'm devolving. I like old John Deere tractors, and that's me. And I'm comfortable in that. Mm-hmm. Some people wouldn't be. Some people want to be sophisticated, and that's great for you. Again, I danced with a girl that brung me, and this is the one that brung me. So those are the things when you mentioned that, people seeing you, how do you react to that whole thing? That's I try to diffuse it if I can.
Yeah.
And it usually works. They think, well, he's a good guy. I mean, they obviously they watch a little bit because they know who you are. I mean, if you've been there 40 years, they better. At some point in time, between all the things they do and charity stuff and whatever, that they would see you or see what you're like. But this kind of makes it a little bit easier, because I know in my business, particularly in television, sometimes in radio, but in television, some people that sit in my chair think they're a little bit bigger than they really are.
Oh, for sure.
Bigger than their britches.
Oh, yeah.
And you're really not.
Mm-hmm.
You get down on your knees and thank those people that watch you, because if they don't watch you, you aren't there.
100%.
And I've been very lucky in that regard to have people believe me, and because it's a credibility thing. Everybody does pretty much the same news. We're all going to cover pretty much the same stories. It's why do they watch David Muir over the people at CBS or Fox? Because they like him. Why do they watch Bill Jartz and Cammie and BAY over the other guy? Hopefully because they like him, for whatever reason.
Because they connect with you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the words you were talking about earlier, they connect with you and
longevity. I mean, Cammy and I have been together in October. It's 26 years. We think we're the longest tenured anchor team in the state of Wisconsin. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Now, going forward, I don't know if it's going to happen because the role of the anchor is changing. I think they're trying to do away with anchors because they get paid a lot of money. They want to, lower their expenses.
Mm-hmm.
But a circus needs a ringmaster. Make no mistake, and I know there's a station in town that kind of does try to do away with anchors. You got to have somebody to introduce the circus acts,
mm-hmm.
and that's what our job is, to introduce the circus acts, the stories of the circus act.
Yep.
I mean, that's how I look at it. Management down the street may look at it differently, and our management may look at it differently. I mean, it's certainly a trend going across the country where they're lessening the impact of the anchors. Again, it's a cost-saving thing, but the one thing you have to keep in mind, as I always say, the circus needs a ringmaster.
That's interesting. I didn't know that was a way that things were trending.
Yeah, it is. That they just have basically reporters stand out in the field. Hi, we're here in Fremont doing a story on blah, blah, when they do the story, and then they tag it out, and then they just go to another one, wipe to another story.
So what transitions in between, though? How do they get from one to another?
It's just a wipe. Sometimes it's just a wipe. And the intros are taped, and an anchor, if you will, tape good evening, thanks, and then at the end he says goodbye. Weather has to be live, obviously,
right? And
that's because the one thing you can't fool people about that, and if we lose our credibility as an industry now, not on individual stations, we lose our credibility as a station as far as this is live or whatever. It'll never end. You'll never get it back,
right? Yeah,
you have to maintain that. It's called news for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. They always used to say, well, you tape at 10 o'clock, don't you? How are we going to do that? Like, especially when it's in sports. How am I going to tape the sports? Do I know, like, they give me, here's the script. Oh, the Brewers are going to win tonight 7-5, and Willie's going to, okay. Well, tonight, the Brewers win 7-5 tonight, a home run there in the fifth inning, and that was Willie Adames, and that's all they did. Good night, everybody. I mean, be serious for a minute. Of course. Now, the morning sports that you see, that's taped. Because it's basically a synopsis
from the day before. Right? Yeah.
But I mean, as far as actually the night of, I mean, my goodness, that's the only thing on the morning show that's taped. The stories obviously are packages, we call them, they're tape stories. But I mean, the anchor stuff where you sit there, they're doing the thing. You can't fake that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the radio business, I didn't realize this, but a friend of mine used to be in a radio down the valley, and he did morning drive radio for Fargo, North Dakota, out of Neenah.
They're never there. Yeah.
I'm going, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
You're telling me, hi everybody, welcome to Fargo WXYZ in Fargo, North Dakota, where it's cold today, and I can see it's 38 degrees, and a little cloudy sky. I mean, seriously, radio, I think more than anywhere else, even more than television. Radio to me now. I mean, I've got this new car. It's got this Sirius radio. I guess I think I get 3 months free or whatever. When that 3 months is gone, I'm back to terrestrial radio for a couple of reasons. One, it's cheap, it's free.
Yeah.
And two, it allows me to stay in touch with the other communities around here. Like I listen to WBBM radio on the way into work every day. That's a half-hour wheel of news out of Chicago, and they cover it's primarily Illinois focused, Chicago focused, but it does cover the world news, and it covers television, it covers markets, it covers sports. So I get in a half an hour, which takes me to drive in, I got a pretty good idea what's going on. I've also listened to WHBY, WOMT, WTMJ. I list all the things for to find out what's going on around the state, and also get pronunciations, because that's one thing that to me is such a critical thing. When you're on the air, you doggone well better know how to say that. Now, I may butcher it, but I'm going to know how to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And this went back to the early wars, the Iran-Iraq wars and things, and there was a gal that got killed, and her name was Kruger. Her last name was Kruger. And everybody said, well, I think it's Krieger. I said, I don't care what you think it is. And I'm probably a bad guy at work because of that. I'm a stickler for that. That's one of my pet peeves. You need to know that. That person raised her hand to say, I want to defend your rights. You damn well better know how to say her name when you introduce that story.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people, I think, well, what's with the old man over there? Why is he so crabby? Not crabby at all. You owe it to that. Because here's the thing. If you don't know how to say the name or the city or the company, then if you can't get that part of the story right, why should I believe anything else in that story? Anything. Goes back when I was a kid. We used to watch these movie trailers. outdoor light movies and things. Coming soon to theaters in Shawano, Wapaka, Antigua, Waiawega. And I'm going, what? Seriously? And it was like, okay, fingers fingernails on a chalkboard. It just kills me. And the Krieger, and I always say, all you got to do, what I did when I used to do one-man band, we call them now MMJs. They're one-man bands, and I did a lot of it in sports. You hold the microphone and say, hi, I am, I set the audio levels, or even if I had a photographer, I set the audio levels, can you give me the correct spelling of your first and last name, please? Okay? And it's pronounced Brad Zima, right? And Brad, good, perfect. And good, we got it. So now I go back and I say, God, was it Brad Zima or was it Brad Zima? I'll go back to the first 5 seconds of the tape and I'll know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And I said, they don't need to know. You're not setting any audio level. Those things are pretty much, unless it's totally out of whack, but you're just easing it. You're giving them something they know. They know their name and where they're from. So it's, because everybody gets nervous. Oh, I'm going to be on TV. Oh my God, I'm going to be on TV. What are they going to ask me? What are they going to ask me? I go, he has just asked me my name and where I live. Jeez, how dumb is this guy? But it diffuses the situation. Yeah. Plus, now you know how to say the guy's name and where he's from.
Yeah.
Now you go on.
Yeah.
I do the gig over at Lambeau Field with the stadium PA during games. Same kind of deal. Like Tuesday, call up the PR people say, listen, can you give me the list of their roster and their pronunciations, and then give me a contact from the team in case because everybody phoneticizes things differently. Write it down. Is it like for me it's AH? Some people just put TA. But for me, if it's Tay, then it's TAY. That's just how I do it. So if there are any questions, I call. And then I write these things out and I look at them every day. And when I get to the same, now I'm not saying I don't screw it up. And I've done it one time when you're in, it's a long play, crazy things are happening. You got one of these names. Used to be only worried about the last name. Now, my goodness, the first name. You got to find out how to say the first name and the last name. Oh, and there's hyphenate. Holy smokes! Now the smoke's coming out of my ears to make this thing happen. But at least I knew how to say it. I'm not saying I didn't say it right, but at least I know how to say it.
Put in the work to do it. Yeah.
Be prepared. It's what it boils down to simply. And I don't care what your line of work is. Be prepared.
Yeah.
Because in the on-air situation, a lot of things can happen. You lose a live shot. Well, then you got to read the story. If you haven't read the story and don't know how to say the names, boom. That's why I always tell a reporter, put it in there. Yeah, but I know how to say it. I know you know how to say it. But what if your live shot dies? Or what if you bring it back at 10 o'clock? Now I have to go back and listen to your story to get the pronunciation of the guy you're talking. Is it Krieger or Kruger? If you put it in there, say, and John Kruger, Krooger, or Krewger, then it's Kruger rather than Kreeger, Krieger. I got it.
Is that how you do it right in the teleprompter? Is it?
Yeah,
right
we can put it in carrots.
Okay.
So it's on and a carrot doesn't show up on our screen, but it's there, but we know not to say that.
Okay.
And it makes it really simple. It's a great system electronically to do it, but I'll do it on my script. I'm Cammie and I are both, thank goodness, paper people. We run a teleprompter. They run a teleprompter. So we read. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. In our story today, we're doing an interview today with Brad Zima at the Green Bay Discovery Center, and then we'll go down on the tape or down on the paper, and when we're on tape or not on camera. And I said, okay, but if some people like the modern world, like Channel 5, for instance, they don't have any paper on the set. I told them years ago. This is probably 10 years ago. They said, we're thinking about doing away with paper. I said, well, here's the deal. I will buy my own printer. I will buy my own paper. I will not go on that set without paper. Well, why? Everything's going to technology. Sure, you trust the teleprompter operator? I don't. And the other thing, to me, there's just comfort there. There's paper that I can see it. So if something happens with a camera, I can see it right here. I can go down. I can read this easier than I read something standing back 10 feet. It's just a comfort. And I meant it. I said, and if I can't do that, if I can't bring paper on set, I will quit. Well, you won't. Try it. I'm as serious as a heart attack.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious about that. And fortunately, Cammie's in that same ballpark. Like the morning people, they don't bring any paper on, so they rely on the computers. Great. They're comfortable. Perfect. But see, when I mark my script, I know at the end of a story, I'm reading, I'm down, tape is rolling, so you don't see my face. Tape is rolling. I can look down and say, okay, two-shot. I'll mark a two-shot bill. So I know at the end of that story, I look up on our two-shot camera, which is camera 4, and there'll be a two-shot. Cammie and I will be on the picture, and I'm the first guy to read. Or if it's two-shot Cammie, I'll look him up. I'll say, Cammie will lead the next story. She'll say, blah, 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 and then I'll take over and read again.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's my roadmap. I truly don't know, and I know it says in there when you read it, the teleprompter, it'll say Cammie or it'll say Bill, who's going to read it. But if you don't know it's coming, and sometimes the floor directors are always on their A game, so I'm either looking here or I'm looking here. Well, if I'm looking here and the shot's here, it looks dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So if, like I said, and I would do it. I print my own paper and I get my own printer, but I will not go on that set without paper. And fortunately, my new boss, she feels the same way. She's old school. She believes in paper, so there's no issue with that happening.
Sure.
Because there's costs associated, of course, with buying printer paper and having a printer to print these things out. But I would not do it. I just feel that strongly about it.
Yeah. So when did you know? You wanted to be a broadcaster? You spoke earlier about the kind of the people whose shoes you were cognizant of filling, right? When did that idea strike you, and how did that happen?
Probably my first taste of it. I was a PA announcer for my sophomore year in high school for our varsity basketball team, and I just kind of liked the idea of. I was always kind of gregarious, kind of I don't want to say a show up, but a talkative fellow, shall we say? and I thought that was kind of cool. So that kind of got it started a little bit. And then I just went to journalism school at Northwestern, great journalism school, and I came out with a degree and I said, okay, now I start sending out resumes, right? And had I gotten the first offer from a magazine or a radio station, I probably would have ended up as a magazine writer or on the radio. But the guy over at Channel 7 also, Mark Zelich, a state broadcasting Hall of Famer, I was a Channel 7 football all-star. The real genesis of it, I was a Channel 7 football all-star my senior year in high school. And the guy who picked the team my senior year in high school was doing the hiring and firing when I came out of college. And so he remembered me. And so I sent him a resume. He said, well, we don't have any openings right now, but I'll keep your resume on file, which now today I'd say on a resume file, it's that little round garbage can right over there. Done. That's it's on file right over there. But he was a man of his integrity and of his word, and he kept my resume on file. And as luck would have it, I graduated June 14th. As luck would have it, about a week later, the guy who was doing the 10 o'clock sports took a job in Madison, Kim Lepak. And so he called me up and he said, Bill, I got an opening here for 10 o'clock. Would you be interested? Yes, would be. So
he called you after saying he'd keep your resume on file.
And I today I would say, being cynical now that we get older, yes, resumes in a garbage can.
That's
but
amazing.
He kept it. And I really believe one of the reasons why is I was a Channel 7 All-Star.
Yep.
So he called me and said, well, I got an opening at 10 o'clock. Would you be interested? Could you come over for an interview? Sure. So I came over. We drove over. I was running a jackhammer and delivering ready mix at a construction company back home. I had a 4-year degree from Northwestern. That was the beginning of my career. Sure glad I didn't pay for it, but what a great way to do what you got trained to do. So I go over for the interview, and we walked in, and he goes, remember this? And back in those days, they used to do station ID slides, and it was Bill from Clintonville High School, Channel 7 All-Star. Channel 7 salutes Bill, Channel 7 All-Star from Clintonville High School. And he held up the slide, and his hair was like down like this, like a mop head. And I go, ooh, I thought it was all destroyed. But and so we just talked, and he used to do Big Ten play-by-play, and I played in the Big Ten, so we were just talking football, and we're talking, and he did things for the Badgers and Iowa girls basketball, and we talked sports, and finally he goes, well, I suppose I should have you do an audition. And so we literally back in the old days, there were AP, UPI, wire machines, and they looked like big rolls of paper, looked like a big roll of toilet paper about 8 inches wide, and you would just feed it in, and it was just constantly printing out stuff. And when you rip it off the wire, and you'd say, okay, there was a basket for international, national, sports, weather, and when you go clear the wire, and everybody did it, you just, okay, that's sports, put that in here, international here, national sport, and you just put them in the right basket. Literally, it was a box. You put it in there. So we walked over, grabbed some sports stuff, and okay, go in the studio, clip on the mic, and here we go. And you read for a couple of stories here, and okay, that's good. And I'll let you know. Well, the next day, Jay Wilson comes in to interview for the same position. Jay, of course, longtime guy down at Channel 7, 27 in Madison, and he was a host of the state boys and girls basketball for years. I mean, did this for years. And when he, a while back, I called him. He was getting ready to retire, and I said, I just want to call him and say, congratulations. Always loved your work on the state basketball tournament thing. He says, Bill, he says, I knew about you getting that job before you did. I said, what? Yeah, he says, I interviewed the day after you. And I walked in, and Mark Zolch goes, I want you to know you're up against some pretty stiff competition. You're up against a Channel 7 All-Star. And he said, at that point in time, I knew I didn't have that job. I knew you had that job. I should have said, Mark, thank you, and walk right back out the door and go back to Madison. But that's how it worked. He gave me the biggest break in my life because I was a Channel 7 All-Star. And that's how I got into business. I had a good senior year in high school in football. That's it.
Opened up a lot of doors,
oh, God.
man.
God.
So what recruitment look like? Did you have a lot of choices, or was Northwestern the one? Or
no, I had offers from Minnesota, Northwestern, and believe it or not, Alabama.
Okay.
Now there's a story behind all these things. Now the Mike Jersley, and if anybody's in sports in the last 40 years knows Mike Jersley. Mike Jersley is one of the best athletes ever in the state of Wisconsin. Come out of Clintonville. He was a year behind me as a quarterback. His dad, Don Jersley, played for Bear Bryant at Kentucky when Bear Bryant was at Kentucky. So I've been recruited, and I got some Ivy League schools and other schools, but those are the ones where I had offers from. And so I went, first year was at Northwestern. So this is just a huge deal. I mean, here's a kid from Clintonville, and I was a hay shaker. I want to tell you, when I was a kid, it was a big deal. We'd go to like Appleton or Green Bay maybe once a year, and when you'd go, you always go to McDonald's. And you never eat it there. You'd always bring it home in the bag. You eat in the bag. So when you went to school on Monday, look at me, look where I was over the week. We were at the big city in the McDonald's right here. I mean, it was a big deal. So anyway, so I get on a plane to Green. My buddies drove me over to Green Bay. Got on a plane, flew down to Chicago, and the guy John Ike said, I still keep in touch with John. The guy that recruited me, and we got off the plane back then. You could walk right up to the door and we'd come off the plane. You'd be right there, and he walked right. Hi, Bill. John Ike at Northwestern University. How are you? And years later, I said, Ike, how did you know it was me? I said, you'd seen my tape with my jersey and everybody. You never really seen my face as far as I know. I said, how'd you know it was me? He said, you were the only guy getting off the plane with eyes this big. You look scared. I figured it had to be you. And so I did that. I went a trip to Minnesota. I remember Cal Stoll was the head coach at the time. And I remember I was in class, and I see this guy walking, and he's wearing, obviously, his Minnesota stuff. And he goes, Bill, can you come down to the office? It was the head coach. It was like, he'd come to Clinton High School. Holy crap, it's a big deal, right? And in Alabama, Don Jersley, Mike's dad, had played with the guys, some of the coaches, so they were still on the staff. And I think, and I really believe this is true, I flew down there, and it was like, oh my gosh, I thought Alabama, it was like going to be 100 degrees, and it was, in the winter, like in January. So I wore packed these shorts. I mean, it was chilly. What am I thinking? I was like, oh, that was not the sharpest knife in the drawer, I'm telling you right here, right? Anyway, you get down there, and, you're in the athletic dorm in Alabama with Bear Bryant, oh my God. And I really, and I think this is true. I think they wanted Mike. Mike was a wishbone quarterback, and at the time they were running a wishbone down there. And I think they said, well, here's the deal. We'll get this Billy guy up here. We'll get Billy in there and bring him in. He'll grease the skids. Mike will follow in his footsteps, and then we'll get rid of Bill and keep Mike. And I wouldn't blame him. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today were it not for Mike Jersley. I mean, he was just so good and so powerful. I mean, I'd walk all summer long working the weight room. He'd walk out 300 pounds. Yeah, sure. Boom, 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 boom. Done. I mean, it's like, huh? But the story with Mike, backstory on that is, and I think about this every day. He had 3 brothers that all had muscular dystrophy. He was the only boy that didn't have muscular dystrophy. And his brothers all died very young. There was Doug Jersley, where they have a sports bank. He had a sports banquet back home named after him, the Doug Jersley Sports Bank, began the Doug Jersley Memorial Sports Banquet. And then Jim and Pete all died of muscular dystrophy. Doug was the oldest at 47, I believe. And they died young, but Mike didn't have it. And you think what went through his mind, Brad, every day before you put your head on a pillow and you got those few minutes before you fall asleep. Why did God give me the ability to be this tremendous athlete?
Yeah.
And my brothers are all dying or are dead. And he was all state in 3 sports. He was a basketball. He had a football scholarship to Wisconsin. got drafted in the 7th round by the Texas Rangers. Ended up playing baseball, his career, minor league baseball. Never made it as a player to the big show, but did make it as a coach. And matter of fact, to the Kansas City Royals, and he and George Brett became good buds. And he got called up to be a third base coach, and then they won the World Series. He's got a World Series ring.
That's amazing.
Pretty amazing. And I think about it every time. What must have gone through? I mean, he was in minor league baseball, I think, 38 years before he got invited to the big show. And I think what would go through his mind every night? My brothers all died. I mean, I remember I used to carry him around. Doug was very labored when he walked when I was a senior, and he would hop on Mike's back hang his arms around his neck and hop on his back, and Mike would carry him around. And a lot of us would do that. He was just one of the guys who just happened to be, turned out he became in a wheelchair, but he very labored walking. But he was a statistician for the baseball team back home, manager. I was a captain of the basketball team his senior year because people respected him so much. I mean, he had this no hang dog, no pity party for me. I'm just one of the guys that, unfortunately, I can't walk. And he worked for the radio station in town, and just an incredible. I learned so much from him. It was inspired. I did their banquets. I think they did 25 of them. I think I did 23 of them. A couple times I couldn't. But it was such an honor to pay respect to a guy like, just a wonderful attitude. Wonderful attitude.
Yeah.
And Mike was, like I said, he was just marvel. I mean, you walk the film, you could make a bad block and he'd still make it look like a pancake block, or he'd just go running off for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think back, those are special times, because it was the only game in town back then. We were 8-1 my senior year. We lost our first game and won them all after that. They went on next year. It was the last year before playoffs. The following year they went back and they lost in the championship game. And then the year after that they won it. I mean, it was just a tremendous. We had a great run of athletes in that. I graduated in '76. So it was 76, 77. Between 76 and 80, had a great run of athletes. And a lot of guys got D1 scholarships and things. And it was fun. We kind of ignited. The city shut down when your football game, everybody's in the stands. There's nobody home. They're all in the stands. So state basketball. So I think we took 6 buses down there. Last guy out, turn out the lights in Clintonville, would you? But it was so cool. And I was a kind of a cheerleader kind of a guy. I wasn't a cheerleader per se as we know him today, but I was a shot in every single state in a paper, in a big set, like a Journal, the Sentinel, the Press Gazette, Apple's. All the same shot with the same me with this headband on, sweating profusely, going. And that shot was across the entire state of Wisconsin. It was just like, that's what I did. I kind of led the cheers, and probably would have been illegal what we did then. It was nuts and bolts, we got you know what. But anyway, but back then you get away with that, right? And that was kind of my role, as like the head cheerleader, and it was such special time. But I think that, the reason I got recruited, because I think they're looking for Mike. They really do. And it was interesting, we kind of lost touch. A few years ago, we did a thing like a honors kind of a thing for kids that had a pretty good year or whatever. And we went back and I talked about broadcasting, and Mike talked about his life, and he showed me his ring. I mean, the thing is just gaudy, but sure wish you had one.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was named to the Packer Board of Directors, he made a special effort to call me and say congratulations. And that really was meaningful. Yeah. Oh, God. Because we weren't particularly close because he was always on the road. I mean, once he left his senior year, he couldn't even come to his own brothers. One time he was able to make it to his brother's banquet with George Brett. They worked out some deal, or schedule worked out where he could come back and brought George Brett back in Clintonville now. And one year, we had Ron Wolf and the Badger coach, what was it, before the guy now, Chris, what was his name? I can't think of his name. The Badger football coach. Anyway, they were both at the podium in Clintonville. It's like, what? How could this possibly be? I'll think of his name in an hour and we'll interrupt. But it was kind of really a neat deal. So, it really meant a lot to me, to him, to call me. And he just said, because it's weird. I don't know that I'm really worthy of being on there. As we talked earlier about, those are like the titans of business. When you look at the lineup of the roster, the people, a guy that runs Festival Foods, Dan Aaron's from Aaron's company, all these bank presidents, and just big, powerful people, and really are dialed into the business world. And then there's little old me. I read a teleprompter for a living, and for me, it's intimidating. But it was for him to contact me and say congratulations. I mean, he's managing in AAA, I believe, and I want to, God, I forget. I think I want to say Memphis, but I'm not sure where he was. But he called me. He had some time. And he sent me a call me, say congratulations. And it really was touching, very touching.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
when someone you have lost
really
touch
respect,
with for a long time and have a lot of respect for. Yeah,
yeah. And I was kind of like the family's eulogy guy. I mean, I did all the eulogies for these folks. I knew them pretty well, and Doug certainly. And remember, I went to St. Rose Catholic Church and had my speech already because they never go unprepared for a eulogy. So there was a little table up there by the altar, and I said, "Can I put my speech here?" He said, "You better not. That's where the urn's going to go." Good point.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah. So I did Doug, Don, brothers, mother Mary. So when it's one of those things that people call on you to do that, I've done several of those, and they're never easy. But I guess they feel because you're in the public speaking business that you might be a good candidate to do it. And it's hard. I mean, you get emotional. My spotter, Andy Thompson, was a center in our high school team, my same class, and he was my spotter for like 25 years when I did in sports and play-by-play, and also with the PA thing. And he passed away a couple of years. That was tough. You're saying goodbye to a contemporary, right? He's 63 years old at the time. It was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And those are tough, but you get through them and you try to inject. It's obviously somber, so you start out one way, but you try to recall the great moments, the funny moments. Even particularly, he would, in a weird way, of drying his feet. He would take the towel and
I'm drying his feet.
Yeah, where he would. I don't know. He put it down and he just pull it up rather than just like reach like most people just dry their feet. He just pulled the towel and pull it up like this again. And I brought a towel to the funeral home and where we did the service and I said, people, why are you bringing it? Never mind, you'll know in a minute. So I told, and people laughed.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that kind of broke up the tension. I mean, otherwise you look at it, there's teary-eyed everywhere. And I get it. I mean, I was there too. I mean, I've been there a lot of times. Mm-hmm. But it kind of broke up the tension. And that's one thing I tried to do. And I tried when I was in broadcast. Somewhere along the line in that half-hour window, when it's sports is usually pretty easy. But you try to get, I want to make you smile.
Bring
just
some levity
1
to
second.
It, yeah.
Just for a second to be a joke or a smile or a laugh, something to lighten the load. Because everybody's got so much stuff on their mind now. And I have been, always have. But now it seems to be even worse. Elections coming up, everybody's, this guy's a bad guy, she's a bad girl. Everybody's a bad guy, right? Mm-hmm. But so I try to bring somewhere along the line some levity if you can. It was something that said from a story or something they said or, what's it going to be like for the pack? Anything, boy, I guess better wear, light T-shirt for the pack. Something to get you to say, oh, so you can just for a second in your day, feel better about yourself and feel better about the weight of the world that's flowing around you.
Yeah, isn't that something? How once the mic finds your hand, it just finds your hand more and more and more as things evolve.
Well, and you're used to it, and like the eulogy, it's tremendous respect and tremendous honor.
Oh yeah.
I remember one of the first ones for a friend of mine, Warren Hansen, who took over. It's kind of my surrogate father. My dad died when I was 12. And he kind of took me under his wing and kind of helped me out and things. And
you did the eulogy?
Yeah, I did the eulogy for him because they said no one else can get through without crying. I said, well, I'm not sure I can.
Yeah.
But I give it a whirl. And I remember he used to sing all this little song, "Let Me Call You Sweetheart," and I remember two things about him too. And I just saw his family, his wife, came back to my sister's funeral about a month ago. And I said, remember the thing about your husband, Warren? There's two things. I said, one, he would eat apples. He'd eat the only thing would be left was just a stem. And I remember my mother as a kid said, don't eat the seeds. The apples are going to be growing in your stomach. And I'm, oh my God, he's going to have an orchard growing in there. I mean, he would every time. The only thing was just a stem. So I started doing that, right?
You started eating the whole apple too?
Sure. I just have the stem and I throw the stem away. But other than that, it's gone.
Okay.
And he was a farmer, so he'd go out and do his chores. He'd come in and he'd clean and take a shower, and he'd sit down, and he'd always have a bowl of cornflakes, always. And I thought, I think as a kid now, I think this is, I'm 12, so maybe around 12, 14, somewhere in that ballpark. And I'm thinking, God, he can't eat cornflakes. That's breakfast food, right? He can't eat that. But he did it every day. That was his thing. And I told her that. I said, Shirley, one thing I remember about your husband, is about the apple stem and eating cornflakes. And the other thing was a farmer, and he had today, you know, my God, they go 40 miles for hay. We had a farm about, maybe 8 miles away, and it was a kick baler. It was where the baler would just load the bales themselves. You didn't have to have anybody load it. But because we had to go a whopping 8 miles, we would sit in the back of these wagons, and these kick wagons, and we'd have to stack the hay because, we get more bales on it if we stack it rather than we just do it like the kick baler does. So, okay. So I'm in there helping them out, boom, stacking. In the early part's real easy, right? We're in the back of the way. Now I get to the front, it's kind of a little tight, and I'm stacking. I can't get to one bale right. I put it down, and all of a sudden I turn around like this, and whoom, the bale comes and just smacks me. I don't know if I got to hit that hard in football, but it's like, woo, and he's, you all right? Yeah, okay, let's keep going. Okay, no big deal. But he was such a wonderful guy, and he was the town assessor. He'd come around and all the tricks of the trade. Just the nicest guy. But when they ask you to do those things, that's quite an honor.
Yeah.
And you don't want to blow it. I mean, that's the one thing, and you get emotional, and you look down at all your friends, these people you know pretty well, they're all teary-eyed, tears are running down, and you got to try to, rescue, keep going,
yeah,
and give them their justice and their due. And these people, when you ask, usually they've got a pretty good connection. Like my spotter, I mean, my goodness, we were high school teammates, and he got in the print business. He was in the print business. I was in the broadcast end of it, and we were just very tight. I mean, his dad was another one of my surrogate fathers, and we just so many great times. And it's kind of weird to see him. That could be me right there. It makes you think about your own longevity. And I'm 66 now, and I just lost my sister. She was 71, so it's like it was weird to see her in the hospital on her within hours of dying. And it's makes you think about when's the time to pull the pin.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Yeah, I had to do my first eulogy this past year. I'll be okay if I don't have to do another. Yeah. It was it's a great respect and a great one, but it was tough. It was a person within my wife's family, and I made the mistake of looking at her when I was doing it, and that's bad news, so I couldn't get through it. Yeah. That's a tough one, man. It's weird because you want to, like you said, you pay dues and justice, and at the same time try to bring some levity into a tough situation.
Yeah, you got to remember the guy.
Yeah.
What? How are people going to remember the guy? They're not going to remember. My dad died. I was 12, and he's in the box. And funerals are so different back then. My mother died 21 years ago. So different. Back then it was there's real kind of morose and moribund, and the casket's up there, and walking by, and he looks so good. No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's gray. He's gray. He's ashen. And
back
he's
to the authentic thing.
And he's in a box.
Yeah.
No. And there were no pictures or anything. It was just a couple of flowers and the little funeral card, and that was it. Now, fast forward, my mother died in 2003. Now you put the pictures up. Now you get the video. Some people do videos. We just had pictures of remember that, or this, and it makes you smile or makes you recall. Remember that time, or what? It's the industry has changed dramatically, and for the betterment.
Oh yeah.
Because otherwise, it's already the bad day at the office. We know that. But how can we make that bad day at the office a little bit better? Maybe somebody be the guy to bring in some ice cream into a bad day at the office. You try to lighten the load, and they've done that industry wide. But it's still never an easy thing. But it's like I said, it's a tremendous honor.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm sure I'll do Shirley's when the time comes. She's 94, just turned 94 last week. And she's not the gal she once was. They used to be, boy, I tell you, they used to, you go to a wedding or something, they were dancing all the time. And Warren and Shirley, they could dance. They knew how to dance. And she's had her hips replaced. So she's not much of a dancing gal anymore, but she's a great lady and a wonderful family. I was in 4-H with them over the years, and they're just great, great people. And I like these old John Deere tractors, and when it was a tractor that I kind of want to have a look at or whatever, I always send Greg over because I can't fix him. He can fix him. So he can look at it and say, well, that was a compression. It's not a bad deal. I'd offer him this. And I'd take him for his word.
Yep.
Because he knows what he's talking about. I don't know. I just like old John Deere tractors, but he knows it. But he goes so far back. I had a crush on his sister, Christine, and my dad was still like, well, you should keep an eye on her. She looks like she'll be a pretty girl someday. Turns out he's right. But back that time, I didn't know what a girl. I didn't know a girl from a frog. You know what I mean? One of those kind of a deal. Again, I'm a farm boy, kind of a hay shaker. You know, it was a big deal to make the trip to the big cities. Oh, we went to Waseca, Minnesota, to pick up a boat. My dad bought a boat from Herders. It was a 14-foot fiberglass fishing boat. Because up to that point, we fished in the Clintonville Pond a lot, and we had an old wooden boat. We used to tie up a chain up to a tree. And we go out, and there was always a coffee can in there. People say, well, it must be a coffee can because you got to go potty, pee in the coffee can, throw it over the boat, right? No. The coffee can was a bail in the water. Uncle Billy here was the water bailer. Dad would run the oars and we're fishing and change the hooks and all that. And I was the guy, we got the water, bail some more water out, Billy, bail some more water. So we went up to Waseca, Minnesota, to take this boat ride. I remember going across the Mississippi River, and I get pictures of the bridge there. And I was like just in awe. I'm thinking, holy cow, how many days are we going to be gone? How many meals should we pack on this trip? We're going all the way to Minnesota. Oh my God! Because up to that point, like the farthest we would go on, just like my mother had relatives up in Cribbets and in Racine. Yeah. So that was like, yeah, my dad's relatives were pretty much central Wisconsin, Waushara County, we were in Waupaca County. They were close, Ogdensburg, Manawa, Wisconsin Rapids, places like pretty close. But what about Racine or Cribbets? Oh my gosh! And that's, to this day, I'm still not a traveling man. I've been very fortunate to take some trips overseas, but my wife says, if it weren't for me, you'd never leave Manitowoc County. And I said, well, you're probably right. But again, I go, that's me. I mean, some people, they want to go see the world, whatever. I've never been to La Crosse. Someday I said, she goes, we got to take a trip. I said, well, let's go to La Crosse. I've heard these great things about La Crosse. The bluffs, it's so beautiful. State track meet there. But when I was in sports, state track was in Madison. So you didn't go to Madison. When you went to Madison, you didn't go to La Crosse. Okay. Milwaukee, we go, Packers play there, so we go to Milwaukee. But I've never been to La Crosse. For God's sakes, man, get out a little bit, huh?
La Crosse is beautiful. It'll be a good trip.
Yeah, I got to go over there one of these days.
So what was your time in Northwestern like then? Did you kind of just hunker down there too when you got there?
Oh, that was weird. I remember at Christmas time, we'd always run guys out to the airport to go fly home. I drove home, of course. And I would go out there and just marvel at the people. There were so many different races and ethnic groups and religions and languages. Even walking down through the campus, again, there were no black people. As a kid, until I got to Northwestern, I'd seen really had contact with two black people. One with Julius Neal, who used to at 4-wheel drive, where everybody worked at Clintonville. He worked at 4-wheel drive Seagrave. He worked there with my dad, and he came home with my dad one time to buy a feeder pig. We had a small farm, and he bought a feeder pig and took it home. Like, cool. And then Kenny Hart was the only guy I ever played against in high school. A black guy was Kenny Hart was an ABC student out of Bayport High School. Every time I see Bayport, I think of that. He was like the big defensive stud, and I was the big offensive blocking stud. So it was like the big confrontation on homecoming in Clintonville, 1975. Irresistible force meets the immovable object. Blah blah. The old big. It was the first time I ever played against somebody. And so we were so protected or sheltered, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. It's just the way it was. Yeah. Now you go back there are black students there, Hispanic students there, Chinese, Asian Americans. They're all that. So it's become much less homogeneous than it was back then. Back then, we had some Native Americans. That was probably about it.
So when you got to Northwestern, that was your first exposure to a lot of it.
Absolutely. Nice. I think I always marveled. They were always putting oil on there after they take a shower. In practice, they'd always be wiping oil on. Don't you just take a shower to get rid of that stuff? Again, I'm a country bumpkin hillbilly. Didn't know what I was doing. Mm-hmm. But it was a different ball game. That was such an eye-opening experience for me. I mean, because
there's so much value in that, man. There's so much value in that exposure.
Oh, I think I still keep in touch. I mentioned with Coach Eichstadt, and he big fan of mine. I remember when we got recruited, we came in February to sign this scholarship. So he came to the high school, picked me up, and then he took me out to my mom's house because Mom didn't drive. So we had to sign the papers. I had to sign, she had to sign, and then he was going to go sign somebody else. But it was a terrible snowstorm. Well, let's get down there real quick and get this done. So I got to get on a Brown Deer down by Milwaukee and sign another guy. This snowstorm was terrible. It was real intense. We called him Colonel Eichstadt. He's like, like Mr. Intense, right? So he goes, well, can I get out of here if I get stuck in your driveway? And I said, hey, don't worry about it. I said, we've got 2 tractors there. Don't sweat a thing. So we go in. I sign the papers. Boss signed them. Okay, good. Time to go. He goes out. Of course, he gets stuck, right? I said, I don't sweat. I'll go out there. Go and hit the see Alice Chalmers with a snowblade. I was going to get him out with that with chains. We were ready to go, right? Sure. Go there. That battery's dead. No, I got to crank. I'm just starting to sweat profusely. Don't worry about it. I got a John Deere tractor. This will start for a 2-cylinder John Deere. But it didn't start. I'm going, oh my God, I got to get him out of here. I'm going to lose my scholarship. So I'm shoveling like mad. Finally, I get him pushed out, and he gets to the end of the driveway. He gets down the road. He goes, work on your leg strength. We'll see you in a couple of months. And I'm, oh my God, I lose my scholarship. What am I going to do? It was just terrible. I was terrified. I didn't know. But he still remembers that story. He's a tremendous memory. Remembers my coach, guidance scouts, for all the people that kind of were kind of watching over my recruitment process, and he was and there's so many things you think. My gosh, we used to bring our own little equipment, jock and shorts and T-shirt, put them on our pads. There every day we had a pin. It was like you put your pin in the pin was a big like giant pin. And you'd put your T-shirt, your jock, your shorts on this pin, and they'd wash it. And then came back for practice, you have another fresh set of clothes to wear. Heck, in high school, you'd wear the same thing for a week sometimes too, but just because it was going, let's see how stinky we can make this thing be.
Goodness, isn't
that was great. And, this is stinkier than wait a minute. And it was like, what? What were we thinking back then? But that's what it was like. It was like, how many times could you get banged in the head and have concussion? Oh, it's kind of cool. You got your bell rung. I got 3. How many you get? I got 4. Oh, you beat me. It's stupid. But that's the way it was. And I remember my very first day before we started practice, I'm running stadium stairs and I trip and I sprain my ankle terribly. Well, this is a great start. I'm between getting stuck in the driveway and a scholarship signing, and I sprained my ankle so I'm on crutches.
Running stairs, not even
running
live
stairs,
game.
and it wasn't even required. It was a bunch of let's go run stadium. Okay, so I don't know what happened. I tripped. I really turned my ankle over, and so we go on this boat trip to Lake Geneva. One of the big alums of Northwest put on this boat trip, so we went all there and a big fancy on Lake. The whole team was on there, and I'm on there on crutches. That was a great start, wasn't it? Just to experience that. I remember the first game my freshman year, I wasn't playing at that time. Didn't play a whole lot, period. But we're playing Notre Dame at our house, Dyke Stadium in Evanston. And we run out, and it's like, and then Notre Dame comes on. And I look over to Todd Carm. I said, TC, aren't we the home team here? In Clintonville, it was dominating. Everybody dressed in orange and black. And here we are down there. It's like Notre Dame's, maybe hour away or hour and a half away. And they all came in big numbers. We didn't have a lot of attendance, but we were terrible. Truth be told, we won 3 games in 4 years. We were 3-40-1. So after a while, that kind of grates on you a little bit. And I remember Mark Murphy when he introduced me at the Packer board thing at the board meeting in the stadium. He goes, "Yeah, Bill Jartz, a new member of the board, and broadcasting, does a lot of things. You probably know him. He calls him the voice of God because he's everywhere you go around the stadium, you hear his voice on game day. And plus, I want you to know he played football at Northwestern. I want to say, hey, Mark, we only won 3 games in 4 years. It's not that big of a deal."
Yeah, leave that one out.
Yeah, let's not say that, okay? Between you and me, just keep her quiet. Well, I didn't play a whole lot. I was a backup and played primarily on special teams when I did play. Remember certain one, like I was playing against Iowa, and John Hardy was the guy, first round pick of the 49ers. And remember, I'm in good position, and blocking. All of a sudden, he grabbed me like a sack of potatoes, just threw me aside. I go, ooh. And winter workouts with Coach Ike said, we got them in the season. So in the winter workouts, we would have we'd run at 5 o'clock in the morning, run stadium stairs inside the basketball arena, and then go lift weights and stuff. That was part of the training, right, to get bigger, stronger, faster. So we're in this, we had Nautilus equipment, so we get on there, start pushing it. And says, okay, you get to the point where you couldn't push anymore. Says, back off, lighten the load, keep going again. And pretty soon I'm going, ooh, I don't feel so good. And okay, keep going. And I said, Coach, I gotta go puke. So I went in the bathroom, threw up like mad because I'm exhausted. And I thought, well, okay, now it's over. Workout's over. Okay, let's go over to this machine. Now I go, oh my God, I guess I'm not in Clintonville anymore. So it was pretty intense. But you see people from across the country, guys you still stay in touch with, and the stories are just how did we maintain our sanity in 4 years, winning 3 games? You know, it's tough.
Yeah.
Because it was a great. I'm sure people know if they don't. Northwestern has a great academic reputation.
Yep.
And the Medill School of Journalism, where I went, was probably one of the best in the country, top 5 certainly. But see, when you're a football player and you're losing games, that doesn't mean a whole lot. And they always say, well, someday, the joke was that, we could stand at the 50-yard line, compare SAT scores, we would win every time. And it probably would be true, because I think it was like 65% of the kids in the Big Ten couldn't have gotten into Northwestern. And the first thing they did, to their credit, you sent your transcripts there before they recruited you. And that was pretty meaningful. And I remember the guy from Alabama. We talked about Alabama. The guy said, "Well, the vice president of ABC News is an Alabama alum." And at that time, again, country buffoon being that I am, so what? I didn't realize that. Sometimes it's who you know that helps you out in your career. Well, the case with me getting a job in Wausau.
Absolutely.
He knew who I was, and the guy was saying, "Well, listen, the guy at ABC News maybe hire you when you come out and go to school and go to work there."
Mm-hmm.
So I was, it was just for me, like I said, the greatest example is when I got off the plane. It was pretty amazing. I was probably 6'2" and probably 220 pounds like that. Now today, I would have probably been recruited as maybe a tight end or something, just because of my size. Back then, we only had one guy on our team on the offensive line, 300 pounds. Jim Ford was 300 pounds, but everyone else was, 270. At that time, it was about 270, 270, 280. And now everybody's 300 plus.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different animal out there now, and rightfully so. We've gotten bigger, stronger, faster. I mean, they're much more selective. And I think part of the problem there was, and I really believe this, the guys in charge at the university didn't want to lose the academic edge they had. I think they felt that if they became really good in athletics, they would have to sacrifice the academic end of it. And that's BS.
Yeah,
Stanford does it. Michigan does it. Wisconsin does it pretty well. I mean, any number of schools. Duke. You can do both. You should strive to do both, or you shouldn't get in that arena.
Mm-hmm.
And there was all the talk at that time, Northwestern to leave the Big Ten, get out of the Big Ten. And that hurt. I'm not going to lie to you. That hurt. I mean, the school newspapers say, you guys are terrible. We're the worst team in college football. And that's not only is that, the Chicago Tribune saying that, but your own, the Northwestern, the Daily Northwestern saying that. And they're like, what are you doing? I mean, that hurt. Because where I came from, the truckers through and through, orange and black, here we go. But that was different. The only time it was kind of nice is being on scholarship. We in the springtime they'd raise the tuition. So the day they'd announce the tuition on the Daily Northwestern, they said, "Well, the tuition's going up, $650 next year," or whatever. Because at that time the scholarship was worth like $1,280. So now it's probably go up $5,000 a year. But I was always going to go up $650 and say, "Okay, guys, we're going out tonight. We just got a pay raise." And Evanston was a weird city. I mean, it was a dry city at that time. You believe it or not, there was only one fast food place in Evanston. That was just their weird rules. That it was a Burger King right down at the center of the campus, and you couldn't get your food handed to you in a bag to go. They would you'd get all the food on a tray, and then they would go over by the condiments, and you would grab the salt, the pepper, whatever, ketchup, whatever else you wanted, and then there was a bag there. You could bag it, but they couldn't bag it. Don't ask me why.
Interesting.
You couldn't buy any liquor, so you had to go to Wilmette, Foremost Liquor. I had built a beat a path there. If I had GPS, it would have been automatically right there. And I remember just to deviate. One time we came out of in a broadcasting class, and so you did weather, you did sports, you directed the show, and the show I directed, and I wanted to open the curtains so I could see them. No, you got to just go off your monitors. And I just, at that time, you had to have a 4-second roll before you intro the story, and it took 4 seconds, so you had to back up. Okay, I think it's 4 seconds. Roll the tape here, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Here come the story. Roll. And I got out of there, and I was just sweating profusely. And I'm going, my God, if this is what I got to do in television, there's no way in the world. So I appreciate those people behind the scenes like you wouldn't believe. It's like, oh, my God, I don't know how you do it. And they say, I don't know how you do what you do.
Yeah.
So we're in the right spots here. But that was just crazy. But yeah, we were playing, you're playing like Michigan. In Michigan, it was our homecoming game. We played in 1 year, and their athletic director, guy by the name of Don Canham, wanted to move the game to Michigan. Because in our place, our capacity was about 50. Oftentimes, we play in front of 17, 20,000 people, which is, where is everybody? But Canham was going to buy out our homecoming game, move the game to Michigan, because they get $100,000 over there. And they were going to say, here's $300,000. Let's play your homecoming in Michigan. Financially, it would have made sense, but you can't do that.
But your homecoming
in Michigan, because financially they were going to give us $300,000.
Yeah,
and it would have made sense for them financially too.
Yeah,
cut to the gate here, no big deal, right? And you'd see, guys like that. You look, God, that's Bo Schembechler over there. There's Woody Hayes. We played Ohio. That's Woody, and it shouldn't have been that way. But me as like, again, country bumpkin, that's Woody Hayes over there. I mean, my goodness, holy cow! He was like a legend. He's a legend. You're in our house. And I can see him go touch him. I should have gone over shaking his hand at the end of the day, but I didn't. It was eye opening. I'll tell you that. It was kind of like the best of times and the worst of times. I mean, we weren't winning, and if you're an athlete, you want to win. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But the experience, the education, and they paid for it. I mean. Forever indebted to that. I mean, I probably wouldn't have gone to college. I don't know what I would have. Probably worked for 4-wheel drive with my father. That was my plan as a kid, to be a machinist like my dad at 4-wheel drive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then he dies. Ironically, when I'm reading a book, How to Play Football, and he has a heart attack and dies. And I think back on that. I think, how my life is coursed through football, getting the football scholarship and basically getting hired because I played football. And having the experience of playing football and then covering, football and the Packers, and now doing the PA job at Lambeau Field and being on the board of directors. And
there's something central about it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. How did the Packers gig come up? I wanted to make sure we talked about that today.
Yeah, that was. We live out in Maribel. We have a log cabin, and back in those days, I was still a young buck, and I would stay in my own house. So it was in June of 2005. I was staying in my house, and this stuff it's oil-based. Wear these big, nasty bib overalls with a belt and an ice cream bucket. I just dump from a 5-gallon pail, stir it up, dump it in my ice cream pail, climb up the stairs, put it on 2 coats, and we're done. 6 years, we're done. So I'm down filling my bucket, and the phone rings in our garage, and I went, do I answer that? I said, yeah, back then you answered the phone, right? Nobody does it anymore, but back then I did. So I went over, it was a white phone, picked it up, I said, yeah. Hey, Bill, it's Jeff Blum of the Green Bay Packers, and I was in news already. This is in 2005. And I said, yeah, Jeff, what's up? It's kind of weird he's calling me now. He says, hey, we're thinking about maybe having you be the PA announcer at Lambeau Field. Knaffel's thinking about retiring, and we thought maybe you'd be a good guy for it. You know football, and you think you'd be sticking around. We probably said, well, you're not going anywhere, so I guess you'd be at least be here to do it, right? And we think you had a good voice for it, and we're wondering if you would be interested in doing that. Yes! Of course, I'd like to be the voice of Lambeau Field. How does this work? So long story short, he said, well, can you come? We'd like you to do an audition over at Lambeau. Come over and put you up in the booth and just see how it sounds. We think you're the guy, you got a good voice, football, blah, blah, blah. John Jones and Bob Harlan think you're the guy, and would you like to do it? So, okay, well. So I called my spotter, Andy, who's since passed, and I said, Andy, I've been asked to be the voice of Lambeau Field. Would you be my spotter? Because that's a critical job. Critical. He goes, yeah. And I said, well, it's one of those deals where you got to be available Thursday nights sometimes, Sunday nights, Monday nights, Saturdays, Sundays. Yeah, he said, he'd be willing to do it. I said, good. So we're going to go over there and have an audition. So he comes along with me. We go up there in the top of the press box. Been renovating, walking down, thinking, wait a minute, field's over here, midfield's over here. And when the last time I saw Gary Knaffel do it, the 50-yard line straddled his crotch, and he's 3 floors up. We're 7th floor, and we're heading down to the southwest corner of the end zone. I go, where are we going there? So we get down there, and there we are. So we're in the back. If you think now, from my vantage point, the players come out of the tunnel across the way. We're 7 floors up and behind the back of the end zone.
Really?
So the vantage point is not real good. And I said, well, why are we down here? He said, we figured you guys would want to do be in touch with Tundra Vision Controlman, and it's right there. I said, well, yeah, but don't we have like headphones or telephones we could talk to them on? So whatever, you're happy just to do where you do it. So we always have to wear binoculars. I use them. My spotter uses them. So he said, okay, here's some copy. Here's some starting lineups. So just get comfortable with it. And here's a couple of announcements. Like, here's some marketing things you're reading. When you're comfortable, let me know. Okay. So I said, well, I'm ready to go. I took a little swig of water. I said, ready to go? Yeah. He called, okay, Bob, Bill's ready to go. So just listen up now. Sure enough, and there's a little tour group going down there. And I'll never forget, when you're up in the booth, it's a deal. There's a microphone like this, and there's a talk box. You have to push down on a button to talk. It's not automatic like this. So I'll never forget. You ready to go? Yeah, okay. And I said, okay. And my hand, and I'm not kidding, my hand was just waving. And I'm thinking, for God's sakes, man, push down on the button, at least your hand will stop shaking. Good afternoon and welcome to Lambeau Field. And the people downstairs go, what is going on? What? And they're thinking, what? They're thinking the Johnsonville ad's being cut or something, And I was so doggone nervous, and so we did the thing, and I got the job, and more people have asked me about that now than about my job. I've been doing broadcasting since 1980. Now, you're the voice of Lambeau Field. What's that like? It's I went to one game in high school. My coach took me to a game, a Packer game, and because we didn't have any money, and he took me to the game. And back then he goes, they could smoke in the stadium yet. And he said, no, watch. He says, when there's a turnover, a touchdown, people light up, and the stands will explode with cigarettes and smoking. Okay, so there's an interception. Everybody starts lighting up the cigarette. Coach, you're right. Look, they're smoking. They're smoking. And that was what really intrigued. I mean, in addition to just being inside the stadium, my God. But now here I am, and I remember being in when I was doing sports and play-by-play and stuff, and you're just basically covering games. And someday, wouldn't it be cool to be the guy doing that? And here I am. So, and it was, it's changed a great deal. And there's no playbook for it or whatever. You just got to get up there and start doing it. They give you a script. It's a 3-ring binder. We call it the book. And there's where all your reads in there. Welcome to Lambeau Field for today's game between the Packers and the Ravens. Today's giveaway is this. Make sure you stop by the pro shop. Make sure you stop by here. And in certain code of conduct. But there's just a 3-ring binder.
Exact timestamps that you got to hit? Or
Well, in the beginning, yes. Then it's pretty much just float around when they come up. At the end of when they go to commercial, then read this commercial.
Okay.
In the beginning, with the is where it gets critical with the flyovers. Then it gets like one of the reads is the introduction to the national anthem. Typically, they put it down for 15 seconds. So in our meeting, we have a meeting every game 3 hours and 15 minutes prior to kickoff. It doesn't matter when the kickoff. If it's noon, we meet at 8:45. If it's 3:25, it's 12:10. It's always 3 hours and 15 minutes prior to kickoff. And we go through every single read, and I check on pronunciation, who's the singer, who's the veteran being honored. And then the anthem. And they'll say, okay, can you read it? So they have it down for 15 seconds in a rundown. Okay, read it, boom. 13 seconds. Okay, read it again. 13 seconds. Okay, so now they're back up the time 2 seconds. And then they back up. So they know the military's job is when we say, and the home of the brave, they fly over.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you say, what's the difference in 2 seconds? Well, when they're going 300 miles an hour, they could be an ant to go if you're messed up time wise. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's that critical. And now, when I first started, it was just kind of you're on your own kind of a thing. Now there's a 40-second play clock. So as soon as the ref marks are ready for play, or 25, but either way, it's either 40 or 25 seconds. And so then from 40 to 20, I can be a cheerleader. And my role's changed dramatically since Coach LaFleur got here. From 40 seconds to 20 seconds on the play clock, I can be a cheerleader, and they're playing music and everything else. From 20 to 15, I just first and 10 ball to 22. I'd be just straight laced, no emphasis, no excitement at all.
Okay.
And from 15 on, I can't say anything. And my microphone is only overridden by the the only person that supersedes me is the referee. So if he's talking, I can't come through. Or if I start talking, he cuts me off. But I'm the second in command as far as microphone power-wise. So the timing thing is pretty quick. And they watch that pretty closely. They send a tape of the games in the league. So, well, you're over a second. Something like you're over a second on one play. Like, Jesus. Mm-hmm. You're doing, 100 plays or whatever it is, and you're over by a second. But they watch that stuff because they don't want an unfair advantage to the home team. And one of the first times I did it was after, that's not true. It was after the Super Bowl year when they won the Super Bowl. Next year they're playing the Saints. And the one thing I kind of developed is give it a Jartzy. They say give it a Jartzy. Well, normally I say first and 10 ball at the 20, second and 8 ball at the 22, and then give it a Jartzy. Then you want to get the crowd excited. So from the 22-yard line, 3rd and 9, or one of those deals. So we're playing the Saints, and they tend to be a little crabby. They're like, I when they come to town, I don't like it because they're kind of crabby. They're like, they're looking for trouble. Look, whatever. So we checked this out before the league and say, yeah, you can give it a Jartzy as long as it happens before 20 seconds. Okay, no problem. So first time comes up for first big down. That was the big for Thursday night football. Pageantries out there. People are going nuts. We're celebrating the Super Bowl. So they said, well, give it a Jartzy. So, okay, from the 28-yard line, 3rd and 7. The phone rings. You can't do that. Well, what do you mean we can't do this? No, you can't do that. The Saints are complaining.
Who was on the other end? Somebody from the Packers?
From the league.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they said, okay, you can't do that. The Saints are complaining. Okay. So we called out. Candy Goltz was on the field with a league rep because at that game they always want the heavies down there. So they said, check and make sure that as long as I do it before 20 seconds, we're okay, right? I said, yep, you're good, no problem. So again, another Jartz, give it a Jartz. 3rd and 9. Ring. Can't do that anymore. You can't. And if you do, they're going to fine you $50,000. Okay, we won't do that anymore. They'll go, what? So anyway, so we go to halftime. Normally, I have nothing to read at halftime, so I always drink. I have a lot of Diet Coke lined up, some cookies over here, so I get my energy level, my caffeine level up, and some Ricola across the window for my pipes. Because I'm a different animal there than I am for my job.
Yep.
So I'm leaving my spotter, and I leave the booth, and as we're walking out of the control room, these two guys in these suits, whose suits probably cost more than my car, were walking in there looking a stern look. And Mike McKenna, the guy that's the other guy in the booth with me, he's got to stay there, right, because he's got to coordinate the music. So we go go to the bathroom, we get a couple more Diet Cokes, walk back in the booth, and he's looking a little ashen like your T-shirt. I go, ooh, what's going on here? He goes, ooh, Jartzy, you're real lucky you weren't here. I said, what's up? He goes, ooh, they were looking for you. they were going bear hunting for you. They were out to get you. So you better be lucky they don't come back. So he took all the heat for that. But we finally got it all resolved now. So again, now it's just real legit. From 40 to 20, I can do anything I want.
You can still give them the Jartzy.
We can play as much exactly.
Yeah.
And 20 to 15, it's got to be real straight. And we watch. There's a clock now up in our booth. A little time shot clock that matches, so it's a little time clock, like literally counts out for 40 seconds. So it's right there. I don't look at that one. I always look at the one in the field because I can see the replay, and out of the corner of my eye, I can see where the players are, and I need to time it up. So the ideal thing is we get to the very end. Come on, Lambeau, let's hear you now. 3rd and 22. 20. And they shut up. The music stops. I shut up, and the crowd's in a frenzy.
Pumped up, yeah.
And we're ready to go. And Coach LaFleur, with Coach, I started with Coach Sherman and McCarthy was next. 1 year Coach Sherman, and then the rest with Mike McCarthy, and then Matt LaFleur. But Matt LaFleur wants every down to be like a Jartzy down, particularly if it's a really big game or a big series. And you kind of get the feel for it when you know that this is a big down and we got to make this happen.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes even to start on first down. And it's all just telecross. And what will happen is see that the other teams, it's either from 40 to 20 or if they're over the ball. If they're over the ball, I got to shut up.
Sure.
So the other teams got, like New England in particular, they take me out of the game pretty easily. Break the huddle early, go stand over the ball. Once the center touches the ball, I got to shut up. So I can't bring the crowd to a frenzy. So what I'll do if I know they're coming or they pick up that they're going to do this, I'll just tell the crowd on first down before they get up or they're in a commercial break, okay, everybody, we need you now. They're going to go over the ball and try to keep it quiet in here. We don't want it quiet. We want it nice and loud. Every down, and I start pounding on the desk. Every single down counts. We need you now. And the guy says, he can hear you pounding on the desk. I don't care. It's what I'm supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So that's what happened. It's funny. It was weird. During COVID, we talked about COVID earlier. I did it during COVID. There's nobody in the stands, and I thought, well, COVID, nobody in the stand. I won't be doing anything this year. And he said, oh no, you're going to have you do it. And I said, why? Creatures of habit. They love to hear their names introduced.
Sure.
They love to hear the 1st and 10. It's football. That's what they're used to doing. So that's what I did. And if you remember back toward the end of the game, I think it was the last regular season game, they allowed like 6,000 people and socially distanced. And so, okay, they got it. And then they had the first playoff game, and they were socially distanced again. They had a few more people in there. And what they did, they handed out these little like placard things or whatever. And this is like defense or go pack or whatever. And they were kind of hard, looked like cardboard, but they were white and they were plastic. Yeah. And what happened, being socially distanced, these people would use them for noisemakers. Yeah. And you can't have noisemakers, right? So they're banging on the chairs and they say, come on, Lambeau, let's hear you. Let's hear some noise. Bang, bang. And they start bang, 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 bang. So we come back the next week for the NFC Championship game. And the guy that runs the show came to me, you don't say a word about making those placard things. And he goes, or we're going to get fined, because apparently the league they thought I was telling them to bang these things on the bleachers. I said, let's just hear you, Lambeau. And okay, on a normal game now, like last week or the next game when they play the Colts in a couple of weeks, if you had somebody bang, there's no place to bang anything. You'd be banging the guy in the head, he'd turn around and hit you, right? So you couldn't do it. But when the socially distanced, you had those aluminum seats, and they made a heck of a racket. I mean, it was loud. But you couldn't do that in a regular situation. Don't you dare. The league thought I was doing inciting them. You got right in my face. I mean, don't you dare do that. We're going to get fined, and that's it. You just can't say a word about it. Okay. I follow orders pretty well over there. Yeah. And so that was it. But yeah, it was one of those deals. You could never duplicate that if we have COVID again. Yeah. You needed all empty space to bang those things. And people aren't dumb. I mean, these things are rigid, and you just they're taking this magazine, But now imagine this, you got, at that time, 8,000 people, bang, bang, bang on aluminum in an empty stadium, and it just really echoed. Yeah. And boy, they were not, he wasn't real happy with me, and the league didn't like me either, so. Unbelievable.
Matt probably liked it, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of noise. Yeah, and they'll send up, the kid on the field, Matt Klein's his name. His dad was a car dealership back home. Again, there's a Clintonville tie, right? And he'll say, Coach wants a lot on this series, Jartz. Call up. He wants a lot on this series. Bring it.
He'll actually do that mid-game.
They'll say, the coach wants it loud. Bring it up. Or he'll tell the folks on the PA, and they'll say, yeah, he wants to bring it up. Get him rolling. Get him going, Jartzy. Yeah, he's smart.
Yeah, for sure.
And it does make a difference. There's no question, because and then once in a while they'll have to call timeout, and then we've got a special read and said, "That's it, Lambeau. That's another disruption you guys caused. Keep it up, keep it." And it's we set it aside, a special place. When they said, "Let's have that," the crowd noise thing. Just give me that. I read that and give it right back to the
false start or something.
Yeah, it's just sitting right on the ledge, and we always know where it is. So, and he'll say, "Give him a crowd reaction." I think is what we call it. Give him the crowd reaction. I read that and put it back in the same place. Use it again down the road.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's wild they called you. Like you didn't apply. You didn't aim that out. Look for a mentor or anything. It was like, hey, you want to be the voice of the Packers? Well, yes, I do.
I still think back on it. It was hot and it was just. I mean, it's covered in this oil-based stain and the phone is white. And to this day, it's again. Here's the old devolving. It's a rotary phone. I have two of them in my house. One of them's in the garage. It's white, and you can still see the brown stain from when I grabbed the phone because I had it in my hand.
Oh, you can't get rid of it.
And I'm not going to, I will never, that one belongs in the Packer Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
I'll never, I mean, unless it breaks, and if it breaks, I'll keep it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a rotary phone, and it's white, and it's right inside my grind. And I said, why do normally, I probably shouldn't have answered. I should have gone back up on the wall and painted. Sure, I'm glad I did that, though. I mean, it's got to change my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What a cool story. Well, Bill, it's awesome to talk with you. I appreciate you taking some time.
Well, it's been a play. It's been a nice trip down memory lane for me. A lot of great memories. It's been a great run. I don't know when it's going to wrap up. I'm 66, and who knows how long it's going to last. But I mean, the Lambeau thing will probably last for a while. But I think back on little country bumpkin guy who used to bail water out of the wooden boat and think it was a big deal to go to Appleton. Now here I am, or see you drive by and say, maybe someday I get to do that. And
yeah,
my 20th year now, so been a good run.
That's awesome.
Thanks, guy.
Thank you.